And now I'm very excited to welcome back a longtime friend of the show. You've heard him many times all over the United States on radio shows and podcasts. You can find some of his work at vegasinsider.com and majorwager.com. I'm very happy to welcome back Mr. Brian Edwards from Brian Edwards Sports and majorwager.com. You can follow him at Vegas B Edwards. Brian, we're rounding it up, man. Football's full blown. We got UFC. This is going to be a fun weekend.
It's going to be a great weekend. Thanks for having me, Kiev. Yeah, this is going to be a great weekend, and I can't wait.
I can't wait, man. It's going to be one of those Saturdays where you're just glued to the TV. You're getting a lot of college football action. Not a lot of huge games, but one that might mean a little bit something more to me than some other people. And, there's only like 2 or 3 top matchups, but that's all we need because there's plenty to talk about. And this is going to be a fantastic UFC 266 card. Liking some of the fights on it. I think the next card might be a little bit better, but this one's pretty good itself because I haven't seen Volkanovski fight in a long time. And Ortega came back from the freaking dead after the Holloway fight and just looking freaking sharp. So can't wait to get into that with you, my man. But I had you on before the season started. I think it was mid-August or something like that. We discussed some things, but this is always a nice little good exercise to talk about where we might have went wrong. And we don't know for sure. We can talk about season win totals and stuff like that, but just our thoughts on some teams and where we were right. So, for me, I can go first here. A couple I got wrong. I was thinking Penn State was going to go under 9. And it's not looking like they're going to go under 9 anymore to me right now. They took care of Auburn, and they should have won that game by more, in my opinion. And Wisconsin, they were outgained by Wisconsin, but their red zone defense really stuck Wisconsin, and it got into Graham Mertz's head, and he fumbled that ball away and threw some interceptions, and Penn State takes that game. So that was one place I was wrong, my man. I also was probably wrong on Kansas State's under 5.5 wins. I was a little surprised they were able to beat Nevada on a backup quarterback. And, they're looking good so far the way they started their season. I did bet them against Stanford at least. So I can wash some of that win total off if you want to look at it that way. But so far, that's where I went wrong. How's your season going, buddy?
Oh, man, I'm horrible in NFL right now, but college football, my record on Vegas Insider is not that great because they don't do first halves and team totals like we were talking about before the show. But I had a huge week last week. Ole Miss team total over first half and game. Alabama actually had a team total for the first quarter last week was 7.5. I had that over. I had them first half team total over and for the game, which lost that team total over lost. But I went. So what's that? That's 4-1 on team totals I had last week. And I had the over on Florida, Alabama was my biggest play of the week. But then when Nessler and Danielson sent it down to Jamie Erdahl right before kick, and she said that Mullen told him that Anthony Richardson wasn't playing unless Emory got hurt. I was like, oh, no, I got too much on the over. But they went to commercial. They still had like 3 minutes of the game on the board. So I got the under I had earlier in the week the over at 58.5 and a little more at 59. And then it's sitting there at 60.5. So I took it under, just worried because no Anthony Richardson, and obviously it hit the middle. So one of those where, you hit with those every now and then. And I was fortunate to hit it the other day. So I had a nice Saturday. I didn't play many season win totals in college. Boston College was my only one that I played really, a significant amount. I had that over. I still think I was right, but Djokovic is potentially out for the year or probably out for the year. So now part of the handicap was that Dennis Grosso had 8 career starts, a 15-6 career TDI&T ratio, and threw for more than 500 yards against Virginia when Djokovic was out last year. So part of the handicap was that I thought I could survive an injury to Djokovic. I didn't want it to come the first possession of week 2. And I didn't want it to be a season ender. So, but I still think I'm in decent shape on that. We'll see.
I think you're in decent shape. The ACC's a couple teams are a little bit tougher than I expected. you got NC State there, and they're gonna show what they're made of against Clemson. Wake Forest was a big bet for me last week. I went against the grain. A lot of people went on Florida State, and I took Wake Forest big, and that was one of my winners. I was on a couple of your totals too. I was on the Tulane Ole Miss total and the over and the Bama over as well, and I'm glad the Bama over hit because that got dangerous at the end.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I put a little baby play on Ole Miss over. Mississippi State over 6, and UL Lafayette over 9. I think Mississippi State's probably looking good, especially if they win this week. UL Lafayette, it just kind of comes down to a couple of games they got coming up, like in late October. So we'll see. And then NFL, I did Steelers over and Jags under. I love my Jags under and Steelers over. We'll see. TJ Watt's out for 3 weeks, and Stephon Tuitt's still out, but I think he's coming back soon. So we'll see on the Steelers. But yeah, that's about it. Didn't do as many college totals as I normally do.
Is there any teams that you feel like you thought were going to be good or bad, and that kind of ended up opposite?
Clemson. They look horrible, man.
Everybody got that way with DJ.
Yeah. I don't have any investments in it. I'm not going to lose any money on it. I'm kind of glad. Right. I like it. One of my best friends is a Clemson fan, so I'm kind of enjoying it. But I knew that Ohio State was, had issues defensively. Now these offensive issues are a little unexpected, and it looks like, Michigan and Penn State are a little better than maybe all of us thought. And so I think Ohio State's going to get beat by somebody. Clemson and Ohio State are the biggest disappointments to me. Utah is a big disappointment. And then Miami's not a disappointment to me because I didn't think they were going to be any good. And Sparty is obviously the biggest surprise, along with who's a big surprise?
Well, Iowa's doing really well.
Iowa's doing really well, yeah. I expected them to be good, but not great. Yeah, BYU, wow. They should be in the Pac-12 this year and dominate.
Well, they're gutting the Pac-12, and they returned the least amount of production out of any team. That's crazy. It was great. It's amazing. They were night games, which helps, but still.
San Diego State's beating the Pac-12's ass also.
Fresno, man.
Fresno's good. Wow, they're good. They should have beat Oregon.
Fresno's looking dang good, man. I swear, Fresno. People were saying when they got that new coach, just give it a couple years. And man, I got to give them a ton of credit. Some people are saying maybe they're the best group of 5 group. No, like even compete with Cincinnati. Like people are starting to say, Chris Felica tweeted out the other day. He's like, maybe Jeff Tedford's team is the best group of 5 team. I don't know, but
I've got them 17th right now.
Well, they did lose to Oregon, but at the same time, in Oregon, they gave them a hell of a run. And I'm not that impressed by Oregon, but let's talk about where we got it right now, make ourselves feel a little bit better. For me, I'm not saying I got it right, but I got a good start to this one. I bet when I was in the Circa a couple weeks ago, sign up for some contests. The only bet I made was Matt Corral for Heisman at 30-1. And with that offense under the Lane train, that's not beyond possibility anymore. So,
oh my God, I hope we get Ole Miss catching double digits in that game because I really think they got a shot to win that game.
Yeah, I think you will. People are going to bet Bama no matter what. I need Bama to. Who are they playing? Southern Miss or somebody? Hopefully they give one of those 60-0 games. But Nick Saban does let off against some of these smaller teams. In my opinion,
I got that stat. You ready?
Yeah, bring it up.
When he's laying 43.5 or more, it's been 12 times. He's 2-10 against the spread.
Oh Jesus! And that's in general, including SEC, I'm sure. And he just doesn't want to blow out the little children of the poor. So, that's a great thing to look at. But Southern Miss is so freaking bad that their 4th string, if there is a 4th string, can beat them by 50 points. And that's what you're worried about. But, hey, that's one thing I got good. I think in the Iowa, I had Iowa power rated above Wisconsin, and some people are like, "What? Why?" And I'm like, "Well, now you kind of see what they are, and we'll see if Wisconsin gets their offense together, and we'll talk about that game." But I'm somewhat right about them. Carolina Panthers plus 275 to make the playoffs. It's looking good for a start, anyway. I mean, way too early to make any decisions, but I like the fact that they beat the Aints, as you like to say, Brian, at home. That was a big W for them. And I was right about Jacksonville under so far. I didn't like the hire in Jacksonville. And
Oh, it's a horrible hire. The worst hire ever. I'm pulling up my preseason rankings. I hadn't looked at it in a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, go ahead. And so Urban Meyer, not a college coach, or sorry, not a pro coach. You've seen him with top recruits, and yeah, he did some good stuff at Bowling Green. He did resurrect the program, but getting 5-star recruits like that's a lot different than coming to the worst team in the NFL. And you can just see his demeanor on the sidelines, not looking pretty. He's looking nervous as ever. He's scratching his head. Trevor Lawrence, he's just as talented as the other quarterbacks right now. I mean, these kids are all grown up, and the bad ones are out, and the good ones are in the NFL. And so that's a game we're going to talk about too, isn't it, Brian?
Oh yeah, I am fading that clown every single week until I lose, and I'm sure if I lose fading him, I'll go right back to fading him the next week.
There you go. A little hint on what's to come, my man. Well, what have you gotten right so far on your thoughts about teams or any plays?
Like I said, I didn't really play many season win totals. I'm looking at my I wasn't enamored with Notre Dame, and there's nothing to be enamored by. I wasn't enamored with Miami. Right. Let's see. I'm just kind of looking at my.
Well, you had to like Florida more than most people, and look what they did with Bama.
Right. Yeah. No. I liked the Gators, and I just figured they had to be better defensively. I knew they had two quarterbacks. Emory didn't play good in the first two games, but he played really well the other day. It was the first time in Saban's tenure that an opponent ran for more than 200 yards and held them to less than 100 yards rushing. If you'd have told me Florida would hold Alabama to 3.3 yards per carry and we lost, I would just be like, huh? What? How did that happen? So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say I got right because I didn't make a bunch of bets.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's too early, but hey, you nailed it. You're low on Miami. You weren't losing money on Miami, which probably many people were. And obviously everyone was down on Florida because they lost Kyle Trask, Tony, Pitts, all those guys. And now, they're looking a lot better with Dan Mullen there than the market initially stated. So good stuff there. Real quick, before we get into these games then, why don't you give me your 4 college football playoff teams? Now, obviously, this is just for fun. Way too early to talk about it, but I'm going to be a little bit creative for you on 2 of them, and you can say whatever you feel.
Right now, I would probably go Oregon. Man, who knows how it's going to play out in the SEC? I mean, it could be Florida, it could be Georgia or Alabama, or it could be 2 of them. And I hate the way Oklahoma looks, but they got off to a bad start last year. I mean, they're undefeated still. I mean, they've had 2 one-possession games when they were favored by 53.5 combined points. But last year in September, they lost twice to K-State and to Iowa State. So they look awful right now compared to what I thought they were going to look like. But they've got plenty of time to get it fixed. And I love Lincoln Riley, and Alex Grinch is one of the better defensive coordinators in the nation. Man, it is hard to say. I would go. I mean, I'm not impressed with Alabama right now, but I'm impressed with Bryce Young. So I'll say Alabama, Oregon, and gosh,
It's tough.
I don't know, man. Like Penn State or Iowa, I think Ohio State's just dying to get beat soon. I mean, Clemson's already got an L. I mean, they should run the table, but I mean, their offense doesn't even have a pulse right now. I mean, they could lose this weekend, and if Dracovic hadn't have gotten hurt, I'd be saying right now Boston College is going to beat Clemson. And NC State also lost a couple of players. Peyton Wilson, their star linebacker, they lost him. Either Michigan, Penn State, or Iowa, they could all. I mean, those three all look better than Ohio State right now. Man, I don't know.
It's so fun this year because everything's kind of came back down to reality when it comes to switching out players. Alabama's finally facing a little bit down, maybe. I mean, they beat Miami, but we don't care about that anymore. And then Wisconsin outgains Penn State and should have scored in the red zone, yet they're there. Iowa blew out Iowa State, a big game that we had a very large play on for Iowa. And Cincinnati's hanging out. Cincinnati's going to beat Notre Dame, and they're going to be like, what about us? What about us? What about us? Type thing. So you can come up with –
you can have a case, man. They've got a total – I mean, they've already gotten through 3 of them. And they get USC later, and they have a total of 7 Power 5 opponents and Boise State. Now, I know Boise State has lost twice, but they had double-digit leads in both of those games. So, I mean, that could be 8 quality wins. I don't know that we should say all those Power 5 wins would be quality, but, I mean, BYU, if they stay undefeated, which is still a big if, they will have a much better case than they had last year when it wasn't really their fault that – their schedule fell apart.
Right. And unfortunately, the Pac-12 looks terrible, but they're going to be undefeated again and being like, dude, what do we have to do? It's 2 years in a row. And that's a million more reasons why people want to see more teams in the playoffs. I'm just going to any of these teams that we mentioned have great shot, I think. Alabama, Georgia, and you can insert Florida there if you want. If Florida beats Georgia, there you go, right? I'm going to say Iowa because they're going to be less beat up maybe by the time they get to it. And they still have to beat Wisconsin at Camp Randall right behind me here. And Cincinnati. I'm going to give it Cincinnati just because they're going to probably be undefeated and they are already a preseason ranked top team. So that's why top 10, I think, preseason ranked, right? Wasn't Cincy? I'm pretty sure. And so that's why I would give it to Cincy because they're fine. They're going to have to stick a group of 5 in here one of these days if they're undefeated. So there you go. But anything can happen, my man. But more importantly, this is a sports betting show. We're going to talk a little bit about some lines here. And right away, we got Nebraska going to Michigan State. Michigan State's laying about 5 points. The total on this is 51.5. I'll let you start, Brian.
Yeah, I like Sparty. I got it at 4. Was that Sunday night or Monday morning? What is it still 5 or I think it's 5 or it was a little while ago.
I'll check now.
Yeah, I like Sparty. Walker, the running back, transfer from Wake Forest, 57 carries, 493 yards, 5 touchdowns, 8.7 yards per carry. I saw PFF had he's leads running backs in the country in forcing missed tackles. He's just been dynamite, and the quarterback is 9 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Nebraska, Martinez played pretty good last week, and it was a good effort. But I mean, God, make some field goals and extra points, and just don't make stupid flipping mistakes, and you win that game. I mean, in other words, after the game, I'm like, so does that show that Frost is starting to turn it around? In my mind, I'm like, no, it doesn't. They lost that game because of just all these errors that seem to be, indicators of poor coaching. So
I look at Frost as someone who just ignores his special teams. Just completely ignores it, and ignores the little things that you have to do. But the fact that they're a dog here makes me on the corn side of things here. And it's for a couple reasons here. I'm glad Michigan State worked Miami last week. Miami, flawed team. I'm pissed at myself for not going on that side. Everyone's handicap was, they're going to the heat of freaking Miami. Northern teams don't do well. Bullshit. Some of these kids are from the freaking heat,
Yeah.
And I bought into it a little bit, but what it made me do is just not bet the game at all, really. But, and it made me lean to Miami, I think I even said. But the truth of the matter is the Big Ten is better than people think, even though Ohio State's not showing it. I think some other teams are showing it. Michigan State, I mean, look at what Minnesota did to Colorado. And Colorado freaking kept up with Texas A&M all day. This is a big yards per play discrepancy because Michigan State's +3 yards per play ish and Nebraska's +1.5. But what are we looking at in the schedule here? Because you got Michigan State that went to Miami and beat them. Doesn't that make this a little bit of a letdown spot? I don't know. They beat Northwestern, who just got beat by Duke. Freaking Duke beat them, basketball school, and Youngstown State. So I'm not quite buying Michigan State's schedule here. And at least when Illinois beat Nebraska, they outgained Illinois. At least they went to Norman and kept up with Oklahoma and probably had a case to win that game if they didn't mess up the field goal and the extra point. And I think they turned it over on the plus side of the field as well, which is awful. And this Buffalo team they beat, they made a case against Coastal Carolina last week. So I think Nebraska had the better schedule. And I'm not just like you, I'm not a big Scott Frost fan. I think he belongs in the smaller conferences. He doesn't probably belong in the Big Ten. But this is too many points. And Adrian Martinez is kind of playing with house money now. He knows he's on his way out if he screws up. You know what he said? He said, I'm just going to go out there and have some fun. And it kind of looks like it a little bit to me. I had this closer to a pick 'em, to be honest with you, because I still have Nebraska ranked higher in my power ratings than Sparty. So I'm going to take the points, bud. And we don't disagree a lot. So interesting that we do finally.
No, we can disagree, no problem.
Well, here's a game that I don't want to disagree with you because this is right in SEC country. We got Tennessee versus Florida, and Florida's laying, was it 20 points?
At last look, it was 20.
Okay, I wrote 30. I'm like, why did I write 30? I think I remember 20.
Right.
You have a large total of 63. Just the line itself tells me that Florida can get there. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, a little bit of a letdown scenario for Florida, although this is still a big rivalry. Florida's 15-1 in the last 16, and we've beaten the Vols by double digits in 10 of the last 14 victories over them, double-digit margins. And these last three have been complete pimp slaps, 47-21, 34-3. And they got 2 touchdowns like in the last 4 or 5 minutes last year to get a crazy backdoor cover. It was only 31-19 last year, but it was 31-3 with 5 or 6 minutes left. And it was a 4th and 10 play, and we had all our backups in, and they I want to say there's only 10 or 15 seconds left when they got the backdoor touchdown. But anywho, my play on this game is Florida -11 in the first half. I've already bet it. I'm probably going to leave the game spread alone. I haven't seen a first quarter number, but I would assume it's going to be less than 7. And even if it's 7, I would be okay with a little bit on that, but more pretty decent sized play on Florida -11 in the first half, and then probably a moderate play on the first quarter as well, assuming it's 7 or fewer, and it's got to be so.
No, I love your thought on that one, and it's funny. It kind of goes with my narrative that might be different than a lot of other people's. Obviously Tennessee's got the new coach and Josh Heupel. They finally whipped some Tennessee State or whoever the hell it was last week. But their only real game they played was against Pittsburgh that they lost, and then Pittsburgh goes and drops one to Western Michigan next week, right? But I don't handicap like playing 2 by 2 by 2. I go by my power ratings, but I will adjust my power ratings for what you did. Just know that. A lot of people think Florida is probably let down, spot. That a lot of people think that Florida might run out of gas. I think the opposite, personally. I think the fact that they kept back with Bama gives these kids a ton of motivation for the rest of the year, because that is battle test. They beat Bama that second half. If that second half was its own game, Alabama was trying. They weren't in prevent mode. They were trying that game, and I was shocked that Florida was able to beat them in the trenches. That's what really blew my mind.
Me too. I mean, I thought we bullied their ass at the line of scrimmage, and I think it was 26-19 first down advantage and 440 to 331 total yards. And there were 3 absolute garbage calls that went against the Gators in the first quarter. One was a 3rd and 7.
Oh, I saw it.
Elam on the PI. That was such garbage. And then there was another play on that. I think it was the same drive. I don't know if it was Robinson or another running back was kind of running out of bounds, but well before he got out of bounds, he literally I think he was trying to do a stiff arm, and you can do a stiff arm to somebody's face, but you can't grab the helmet, you can't grab the face mask and yank it and continue to hold it as you go like 5 yards out of bounds.
I saw that too. I was like, why is that offensive face masking on the running back?
And then they horse collar Damian Pierce on like a 3rd and 3 play as he was about to cut the corner and get a first down. And then we had to punt. They didn't call the horse collar, and we had to punt. So those 3 calls were just enormous rob jobs on us.
Yeah, and you know what? I destroyed the refs as much as my listeners can probably take in my earlier of the week podcast. But man, that's got to get better. And if you're a Mississippi State fan, you're probably still marching over to the offices right there to protest, start holding some signs or something. But I have a question. Who's quarterbacking Richardson? Who's going to?
Well, we don't know about if Richardson's going to play yet. They're optimistic that he's going to be able to go, but it'll just be little spurts. I mean, Emory's going to be the main guy, but if Richardson's ready to go, he will definitely get multiple possessions in the first half, and we'll just see how the game goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was interesting to me about who's going to play the quarterback. And it's hard for me to handicap them different. I think Richardson's got more upside for sure to cover spreads. So that's the way I kind of look at these two. All right. Well, hey, I like the first half play. My number is 16, which is below, it's below, but I can't bet a fast-paced team that can that can lose margin game because they're giving the other team more plays. That's why you see a higher spread, in my opinion, here. So I love the first half play. Texas A&M versus Arkansas. We got a big spread at home. Well, pretty big. I mean, plus 5.5. The total is 47. Woo pig suey. Is that what they say? Woo pig suey. What's up with this game?
Yeah. So, A&M came in the SEC in 2012, and they've beaten Arkansas every single year. However, Arkansas has covered in 3 straight, and 5 of the last 7 have been one possession games. I mean, they have found like every heartbreaking way to lose in this series. I really like Arkansas plus the 5.5, and I sense they're ready to get them. I think they're going to win this game. I'm not saying like I'm going to have a huge money line play. I'll have a little baby money line play, but I will be pretty strong on the Hogs catching the points now. So KJ Jefferson's only had 4 career starts, and Arkansas is averaging 42.8 points per game in those starts. He's a big boy, and he's he can run it, he can throw it, and he's got some weapons, man. Treylon Burks is one of the best players, or one of the best receivers in the country. Treylon Smith, the running back, is an absolute burner. Devion Warren's another really good receiver. I love their linebackers, Grant Morgan and Bumper Pool, and Jalen Catalon was a third-team All-American last year and one of the best DBs in the nation. And, A&M, that 10-7 win at Colorado is certainly not aging well after PJ Fleck and the Gophers go in there and give out a cream cheese bagel and beat the brakes off them 30-0 in Boulder last week. So A&M's got a really, really good defense, but I just don't think a whole lot of their offense right now. And I like the Razorbacks.
Maybe you like the under then too, if that's the case.
Pretty low. What, 47, 48?
Yeah. It's Arkansas. I lost the game. There it is. 47. 47. Yeah.
Bottom one, and I don't like the under. I don't know.
It's 47, which is getting down there for college, especially when a team scored so many points last year and gave up so many in Arkansas. So, when you said this game, I was like, why didn't I dig into this one deeper to me? And I kind of felt what you were feeling when you sent that to me. It slapped me right in the face, to be honest with you. I think it's a great spot here for the Razorbacks here. I think there's a couple things you just need to look at, right? Who played the harder schedule? Well, if you look at Arkansas, they had to play Texas at least, right? And that's the only real team they really played, because I guess Georgia Southern is not living up to any expectations. But at least that they showed me against Texas and Georgia Southern, they can stop the run. That's the way that Texas A&M has to beat them, is with Spiller, right? Well, if they can stop the run, that Calzada quarterback over at A&M, I don't trust that guy at all, man. He's got like a 53% completion percentage. You look at yards per play, Arkansas is a plus 3.27 and A&M is 2.67, but they should be bigger than that because they played Colorado, and that was even in Colorado. It was a neutral stadium, I believe, in that game.
Yeah, one of A&M's best weapons, Smith. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Anais, maybe. He is questionable this week, and that's a pretty big deal. Last year, 6 receiving touchdowns. This year so far, 13 catches, 135 yards, 2 touchdowns, in only 3 games. Averaged 6.0 yards per carry last year. He's a pretty big weapon for them. He's questionable, and they got a couple of O-linemen that are questionable as well, Robinson and Matthews. So that's just whatever, that's not really much of a factor, but I'll just mention it.
Well, it is if they both miss. And you did say it right, Anais Smith. And I'll tell you, man, great points here. And if you're the Razorbacks there, what you doing? You are stacking the box. You are making sure that they don't run the game, and you tell them to try to beat you over the top. I think Colorado did that a little bit themselves here. Arkansas is going to win this game outright. That's what I have. I think my power ratings has it closer to a pick 'em, maybe Texas A&M a little bit higher, just because I don't try to overreact to my power ratings too much. But Arkansas is just showing everybody who they are, and the atmosphere has been electric down there from what I'm hearing. So this is a good one here. The 5.5, it tells me that Arkansas is right side. No one wants to get to 6 in this game, man. So I love it, and I'm going to put a big 3 stars on that. I'll put a pretty fat sprinkle as a free play to all of our listeners here. So great. I'm glad we're on the same side there. West Virginia versus Oklahoma, minus 16-ish. Total on this is about 57.5. And I'll start on this one, Brian, if that's okay. Oklahoma, not impressive, obviously, at all. I mean, Tulane got back into that game. I was on Nebraska plus 22 last week. I was like, this is a bigger game for Nebraska than them. The worry about this spread's big. And people are like, why are you not betting West Virginia? It's because we've seen what Oklahoma can do with a lot of these players. We've seen it in the past. But it doesn't look like they improved so far. I mean, where is this top 2 in a lot of people's power ratings preseason team? Is it going to show up this week? Because if they show up this week, maybe they do destroy West Virginia. But the thing that worries me is that West Virginia has not been a good road team since 2019. They haven't even won a road game, right? Since all the way back to 2019. And they played almost a full schedule last year of 10, 11 games. Oklahoma only ranks 42nd in yards per play here. 3 relatively easy games, including an FCS opponent. And West Virginia ranks 61st in yards per play at 5.5 yards per play. So a little bit lower on them, but both teams about equal in defense, 5.1 yards per play allowed on defense, and you can't get too deep in the weeds for stats and explosive plays and things like that. But what you can see is that even with this spread at 16, my number has it closer to 13 and a half, Brian. And my algorithm has this game a hell of a lot lower. If that's just using this year's stats, I didn't use last year's, but it's only at 5.51 with a total of 53.8. So what am I going to handicap more here? Why am I not betting West Virginia? And it's because I'm scared, baby. Maybe I'm scared of what I saw with Oklahoma, but this will be one game. If we don't take West Virginia, we might be kicking ourselves if they cover the spread. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I've already taken West Virginia. I got it at 16 and a half, bought the half point, the key number of 17. They've got a really good running back in Letty Brown. I've always liked Neil Brown going back to his Troy days. Their last 3 as double-digit underdogs, and they were all in 2019. As you referenced, they lost all 4 of their road games outright last year. But they are 3-0 against the spread with 2 outright wins. Their last 3 as double-digit dogs, and that was in November of 19 when they were not going to a bowl game and they kept playing hard. They went outright at K-State as a 14-point dog, and they went outright at TCU as a 13.5-point dog. Jarrett Dagey, 66-25 career TD-INT ratio. Now, Oklahoma has really dominated this rivalry. In fact, they've kind of same with A&M and Arkansas since West Virginia came into the Big 12 in 2012. They haven't beaten Oklahoma. And also, I've got it right here. Let's see. Oklahoma is 5-0-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings. I'll throw this out there as well. The overs cashed in 6 straight between these teams in 8 of the last 9. But I'm going to obviously, as I noted, go with West Virginia and go against the trend of Oklahoma, dominating this rivalry. Recently, I just, until they show me something, and again, they might, they lost outright 2 games in September last year, and then, we're looking really strong late in the year, and their coach is really good. But they've got some injuries as well, and they just, again, like I said earlier, they've been favored by 53.5 combined points against Tulane and Nebraska, and 1 possession games. And then you also see Tulane, I'm thinking, okay, well, and I love Willie Fritz, and I like Michael Pratt. I liked him a lot last year. So you're thinking Tulane's pretty good, and then they just go into Ole Miss and just get absolutely mauled. Now, it was the 3rd week in a row they had to travel, and being displaced and all, talking about Tulane. But I just am just weekly unimpressed with Oklahoma, and it's a big number. And Neil Brown's a heck of a coach, and I like West Virginia.
Yeah, just don't throw no pick 6 at the end. I think I had West Virginia against Oklahoma State last year, and I remember they blew it in the red zone, and I think Oklahoma State scored off something. Could have been a turnover, something like that. And it says things you can't let. No,
I remember that too. Damn it, I had that as well. Now that you remind me, why'd you bring that up, Kiev?
I know.
I remember that. That was awful.
We're not supposed to remember these things as sports bettors, but there you go. But I think this is going to be a most likely bet for me. And I don't know if it's going to get down to 14. I'll tell you this: if the momentum keeps going down, then I'm going to be worried, and I don't know if I'll make a impulse play or not. But there's a couple reasons why I stayed off it, but all the numbers say to take West Virginia. Let's move on to the biggest game this weekend, buddy. And sorry, it's not Florida, Tennessee, because Tennessee just does not live up to it. But the Fighting Irish and Wisconsin is meeting in the middle in Chicago at Soldier Field for a massive game. Game day will be there. I have no idea why the fuck they put it at 9 a.m. for me and Pacific time here. I'll be coaching for a little bit, looking at my phone, and then racing home by halftime. And, I think I'll.
Oh, you got to coach your kid in a little.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna record it, and the kids more important. That's of course. Always. So but at the same time, I'll probably watch a little bit of the first quarter and be following it on my phone a little bit. But either way, this game's massive, as you know. And what's kind of funny is the sharp side seems to be Wisconsin. From where I'm looking at the money, it looks like Wisconsin money's coming in, and I'm not sure if I agree with it, but my handicap on this game is, what is Wisconsin going to do in the red zone? Because that's where they keep fucking up all year. And normally I don't drop F-bombs, but we're talking about my team. Sure. And, you saw it against Penn State. You saw it last year against Northwestern. You saw it against Indiana last year. When's Graham Mertz going to mature and not fumble and trip his running backs he's fumbling on RPOs. That's not smooth. The running backs are tripping over his feet. This is not good for that. At the same time, they ran it down Penn State's throat, and they were able to move the ball. They just couldn't get it in the end zone at the end. Notre Dame, man, I thought they got a lot of blessings from the Zebras that game against Purdue. And I have a buddy that's a Notre Dame fan that even texted me that. That's where I got the whole blessings thing. But at the same time, Notre Dame's still a great program. But what people might not mention is Jack Cohn is kind of out for revenge, because he played for us and we gave him the boot just because of a preseason injury. We started Mertz, and Mertz had those killer 2 games against Illinois and Michigan. How the hell do you not start him after that? Well, Cohn took some offense to that. I believe I saw his demeanor during the rest of the games. It wasn't good, and he transferred. I'm happy for the kid, what he's doing. He's on an undefeated Notre Dame team, but this Notre Dame team is flawed. They can't move the ball against great defenses, in my opinion. You saw them struggle against a couple times against Purdue, and they don't have a great defense. They struggled a little bit against Toledo, and Toledo just got beat by Colorado State at home. So that sure doesn't help Notre Dame. Jack Cohn can't throw it over the top, and that's my handicap right there. Sean Clifford was able to do that into his speedy 4 or 5-star wide receivers against Wisconsin, and then our safety Scott Nelson blew it. What can you say? But even as good as our defense has showed normally, besides those couple over the top plays, we still haven't gotten Leo Chanel yet, our second best player to Jack Sanborn, back at linebacker, and he's possibly going to be playing this game for his debut. So our defense might have even just gotten even better against this Notre Dame. I don't know how Notre Dame's going to move the ball once, and I think that's what the Sharps are seeing. I think that's why the Sharps are taking the 6. They probably look at this game as like a 23-10, 23-13 type of game, and that could be very possible. The whole revenge angle with Cohn, I'm not buying that, because he can also be very nervous about this situation. Yeah. There's multiple ways that this thing can go. Notre Dame hasn't showed they have the speed. They do have the big tight end, but the Badgers also stop tight ends. They've stopped them against Iowa, and they've stopped them against Penn State already this year. They're good against tight ends. I ran the numbers through my algorithm. I had Wisconsin winning 24.5-20. Which is about 4.5 points. My power ratings have the Badgers just by 3.5 points on a neutral. So that's why I'm not betting Wisconsin right here. But it's not to mention they're a team close to my heart. I don't want to lose twice on my Badgers this week, buddy. But I think the under 47 is the best look for me. What are your thoughts?
Well, we're similar on our numbers. I made Wisconsin 4, so that tells me I lean Notre Dame, but I'm just not in any rush to go bet Notre Dame. I got to be honest, I haven't watched a play of them since the FSU game, but I watched the whole FSU game. And Cohn played well that game, and I don't know, man, but I just wasn't. And then the fact that FSU's just been so awful since that game, that makes me think less of Notre Dame. And then Toledo gets beat at home by Colorado State by double digits after Colorado State lost by 19 to an FCS team at home. So all of those factors make me just not be that into Notre Dame. And like, I know Chanel, wasn't it COVID? Like, I remember, didn't he have a tweet or an Instagram saying he's out the first 2 games? So I would assume he's going to be back. Now, I know you're way all over Wisconsin more than I'm probably not playing this game, so I haven't done any reading on it. I would think Chanel will be back, and I know he was second leading tackler last year, so that would be a big lift.
It was COVID, but I believe he's recovered, and that's why they moved him to at least questionable. But I think he plays.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be a hard pass for me.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and that's probably a good way to do it. Obviously, if Wisconsin decides to put up a ton of points, like something I've never seen, I'd hate to be stuck with the under either. But the under, just to anybody that has no personal feelings or emotions into this game, I think the under is probably the best look for this situation that you're going to get. Well, that's great stuff, man. Anything else in college before we jump to the NFL and UFC?
Yeah, I got a little bit on App State minus 7 tomorrow. Obviously App State beat ECU pretty handily, and Marshall was beating them pretty handily until ECU came back and won up in Huntington, West Virginia by a 42-38 score last week. But App State's always good at home, and I like them minus 7. Also like Army minus 8 against Miami of Ohio. And I also, the over's 3-0 for Army. And their combined scores have been 53, 73, and 73. They're 8th in the nation in scoring, 44.3 points per game. Their combined scores have averaged 66.3. The over's 2-1 for Miami of Ohio. Their combined scores have been 49, 57, and 63. And yet we can get this total at 48.5, which both teams have gone over in every single one of their games. So I'm on the over on that one. That's a noon Eastern kick. I like Army and the over. If you're one that likes to do money line parlays, I think Army would be good in a money line parlay this week as well.
All right, my man. Good stuff here. And I think I misspoke. Arkansas, it's not in Arkansas. It's at Arlington, right?
Yeah, very well.
That's like saying, yeah. So I mentioned at Arkansas, my bad. That game is actually in Arlington, but I still like the Razorbacks there. And I think that it's going to be probably the second best game, let's say, behind my Badgers versus Notre Dame. Let's move on to some NFL then. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to toss this game right out the window, buddy. I had Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh. There's no reason to talk about this game. Devin Bush and Hayden and TJ Watt's out, and Big Ben's now questionable. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if we're going to see Rudolph or whatever. I think it's absolutely worthless to talk about this. And the spread's all the way down to 3.5, so saying that an injured Pittsburgh's only a half point better than Cincy. So unless you have a play on that, I'm staying away from that one. We don't need to discuss it. But let's go in a game that you picked here, buddy. Arizona is facing Jacksonville, the Cardinals versus the Jaguars. Jaguars home dog plus 7.5. Total is 52. What are your thoughts on your buddy Urban Meyer in this game?
He's going to get his ass kicked again. That's exactly my thoughts. And you better get it fast because there's a couple of – Westgate is still at 7. Circa's still at 7. Caesars is still at 7. Actually, I am betting MGM. But, I mean, this thing's going to be up close to 10, I think, by kickoff. So, Arizona obviously looks really good. And, sure, it's traveling to the east for a West Coast team, 10 a.m. body clock, all that. Forget all those potential red flags. F all that. The Jagoffs are horrible. They have the worst coach in the NFL. They were horrible last year. They're just as bad this year, and they're not getting any better. Easily the best play on the board, Zona.
Lay it, baby. -7.5. Try to get the 7 is what I try to say.
Of course.
Lawrence has not looked good at all. I've already harped on my belief in Urban Meyer. Jacksonville's pass rush is the only shining thing that they have, but that doesn't work against Kyler Murray. Now, maybe if they're facing a statue like a Jared Goff or something, I'd handicap that more into it. But this might only help Kyler Murray get out and get more yards, and maybe a rushing prop on Kyler Murray might not be a bad over his rushing yards in this game either. I mean,
if you wanted to get cute team total over on Arizona, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure they're going to score a ton of points.
Well, a 7.5 at 52, you're looking at 30 to 22 ish. I mean, 29, 21, 22. Yeah,
if their team total is less than 31, hammer that thing.
Yeah. That's 32 is your key right there. Actually, sorry, 31 is 28 plus the field goal. So there you go. Yeah, absolutely like that side as well, buddy. My opinion, same as yours. The only way I could go is Arizona. I didn't play it, but let's see if the contrarian side might beat that down too. Watch your lines. Try to find a clean 7 is my only advice if you're interested in fading the old Jaguars. Move into a bigger game. Tampa Bay versus the Rams. The Rams are laying about 1 point now. It's I've seen it both. I've seen a +1. I've seen I think I even see a +1.5. I see a book with -1, which tells me the spread is probably correct from a market standpoint around the pick'em area. 55.5, pretty big total. And this is the biggest game of the week. 2 potential Super Bowl teams facing off at SoFi Stadium, brand new SoFi Stadium. Looks really nice in there. The Bucs have showed pretty well beating the Cowboys, but not like dominant. They're actually outgained so far in total yards for and against this year. So that's kind of interesting. Now, some of those were garbage yards against Atlanta, but your Hotlanta Falcons blew that one pretty quickly with the picks, and that blew anybody that had the dog in that game. And that really annoys me when Matt Ryan does that. But these teams are pretty healthy. I don't see a huge edge for the injuries. But what I do see is that my power ratings actually have the Rams by about 1.5 to 2 points, which is close to the spread. But one thing you can't ignore is what happened last year. When the Rams went into Tampa last year, and I remember because I lost this game, I thought Tampa was the side. The Rams whipped them up. And that final score, 27-24, doesn't tell the story because those 2 touchdowns that Brady scored were very much at the last part of the game where the Rams already had it. They opened up a can on the Rams. Or on the Tampa Bay Bucs. And I think that was all Sean McVay. And I'm not sure if Sean McVay isn't a better coach than Bruce Arians, and I think he is. If you look at it from a Tampa perspective, I know Brady said, well, it'd be nice to go undefeated, but to be honest with you, you're facing Aaron Donald and that line. I'd be running the ball all freaking day. And if that's the case, then I would be a little bit more worried about the Rams winning this, because I'll tell you this, the Rams are actually a little bit susceptible against the run, but I think the coaching is going to play a big fact in this. And I think there's going to be some misdirection that Stafford uses. And I think that the Rams are going to win this one at home. I like them at home. I like it. The fact that Tampa hasn't showed great. They took a while for Tampa to get rolling last year. I think this is their hiccup, and this is the big one for the Rams. So I'm going to play the Rams here around the pick them at the 2 for about a couple stars. What are your thoughts?
I made the Rams 1.5. I agree with everything you're saying there. Tough travel, going out, long flight out west. Slight lean to the Rams. I don't know that it's going to make the cut for me. And yeah, I mean, look, my Falcons are horrible, and I can't I think our coach is the second worst coach in the league behind Urban Meyer. Falcons are my team, is why I say our. It's early.
It's early.
Yeah. So, but I mean, look, it was 28-25. What was it? Was that late third or early fourth last week? Falcons at Tampa Bay. That wasn't very impressive. It's the Rams are past in my mind, but I just don't really bet against Tom Brady as a general rule of thumb. So again, I'm not telling you your listeners to go bet the Rams. I don't even know if I'm gonna bet it. But if gun to my head, I'd probably go Tom Brady, but you know what I'm saying.
You got the lean and then you got the gun. With the gun, right. I mean, you got. Right. I don't care what spread.
The gun's most important. So don't bet against Brady. I guess that's just a pretty good rule of thumb to have always.
Yeah, I mean Brady, he's won such a high percentage of spreads over his time. It's just a spot play, more or less, for me.
No, I hear there's nothing wrong with playing the Rams, but you know what I'm saying as well.
Lines are tight in the NFL. Lines are tight. Yeah. But let's go into the second best game then, in my opinion, which is Green Bay at San Francisco. And San Fran's laying about 3.5 points. The total of this is 50. And I took this at the 4, Brian, before the Packers played Monday Night Football. So my handicap on this game used to be that the Packers can't stop the run and Rodgers can't win in California, blah, blah, blah. That's changed a little bit. And the reason that has is because Green Bay got Devondre Campbell as inside linebacker, and their against the run is looking a little bit better. Not 100%, but they're kind of up to average now against the run, in my opinion. And number 2, the Niners lost a ton of running backs, and they have young guys running the ball that are very prone to fumbling, and that could happen here. I mean, when you got lost Mostert, right? Hasty's been there for a while. Wilson didn't even see the field yet, and you're relying on guys like Elijah Mitchell. You're relying on Trey Sermon that's already banged up. Both these guys are banged up, and they're going to have to play this game. You saw the Niners get a little bit hot on the waiver wire here, trying to pick up a couple scrap heap running backs right there. I think Chris Thompson actually got picked up by them this week. So it's one of those situations where I can't handicap the run. Now, what's going to happen is the Packers are going to try to stop the run, and they're going to make Jimmy Garoppolo beat them, because Matt LaFleur is not a stupid coach. He's a good coach, and he knows how to do that. George Kittle worries me a little bit, but he hasn't done shit yet this year, and I wonder if he lost a step from his injury. Last year, the Packers beat him by double digits, and I know it was against a beat-up San Francisco team, but just for the fact that the Packers already started off with that nasty loss means they still need another big win. That Lions win doesn't say it for me. The fact that the Niners lost cornerback Jason Verrett the first game is massive, and now Emmanuel Mosley is very questionable to play this game. Not good against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. So, in my opinion, the handicap is they stop the run, and the Packers cover the spread, and I think they could win outright, my man. What are your thoughts?
I made the Niners 4. Short week, going out west is, always a red flag, but so are your running back room being absolutely gutted. That's a red flag as well. No strong opinion on this one, man. Packers looked terrible for 6 quarters. Now they had a really good second half the other night, and found a way to cover. But I don't know, man. It's just nothing's making me want to back either team right now, and I think I'm gonna be on the sidelines, brother.
I picked the hard ones for you, apparently, except for Jacksonville. Well, you picked that one. Anything before we get to the UFC? Anything else you like in the NFL?
Yeah, the G-men did absolutely thump my Falcons. I was gonna go to this game. I have a ticket. I was gonna go. I don't know if you know. Are you familiar with Caden Smith, number 82 for the Giants, who was just absolutely bullying Chase Young around last week? He's tight end. Anyway, yeah. His family lives right down the street from me, and I was going to go up with them. They had me a ticket, but then the Falcons looked so bad against the Eagles that I decided I didn't want to buy that plane ticket.
Plus, you're a Falcons fan that has to sit with Giants, man.
Right. No, that would have been fine because I root for Caden regardless because we're buddies. But Yeah, I think my Falcons suck. And so I like the Giants -3.
All right. Well, there you go. There is the handicap from Brian Edwards on his Falcons right there. They suck, according to Brian. Hey, no, you know what? My handicap on the Bears have been that for years. So there you go. don't fucking go lose money on them. Right. All right.
Win money. Allow yourself to ease the pain of the L's by winning money against them.
Exactly. And that's what I always say. If you know your team better than the market because it's your team, you better bet against them because that's your opportunity to get your edge and win some money. Let's move on to some UFC then, my man. 266, Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. Huge card here. Let me pull up my odds here. I don't want to start with that one, Brian. Let's kind of start with the main card a little bit here. And to be completely honest with you, I like a lot of favorites on it. And that's just a general statement. But I look at Marlon Moraes versus Merab Dvalishvili. And I think, maybe that's the end of the prelims. But I like Merab here. But I don't know if I want to lay the -260 on Merab personally, just because that's a big price. What I do, I try not to look at the spread when I handicap, and then I kind of think about the number of what Vegas is going to have, and I think it's -200. I'm thinking, oh, that's probably a play for me. Then it comes out -260. I'm like, Jesus. Well, Merab's got the better ground game, in my opinion, and I don't think Moraes really has that great of a chance against him. I don't know. Have you looked at this one at all?
Yeah, I hate going against elite wrestlers. Look, if Moraes can keep the fight standing, he should dominate, but I don't think he can keep the fight standing. Now, Moraes has got some flying knees and some stuff in his repertoire. He could, and look, he's beaten a wrestler like Aljamain Sterling, the current champ, by odds.
I noticed that. Yeah,
that was really early in that fight too. Aljo just came in for the takedown, and Moraes timed a flying knee perfectly. So there is the chance of that happening. But this, how do you pronounce it again?
Dvalishvili.
Dvalishvili, whatever the hell it is. Yeah, I'm not saying bet on him. He's way too expensive, but I can't stand when I bet on an underdog striker against a wrestler, and then I have to sit there for 15 minutes and watch that boring ass fight. So this is a pass for me.
Yeah, and I think I'll use Merab as a parlay leg. I
can see that.
I think he's a good leg right here because I can't see a lucky flying knee again. It could happen, but I don't think it's probable enough for me to even worry about it. That's why we bet parlays. Otherwise, you're getting negative EV. Let's move into the next one then. Jessica Andrade here. This is kind of a weird fight that she's actually on the main card, I guess, but she's been around a while. She's 29-1 here, and she's fighting kind of an up-and-coming fighter in Cynthia Calvillo. And, Andrade's got the experience here, but she hasn't showed that well over her last few fights. She beat, Shevchenko, of course, who cares if you lose to Shevchenko, but she beat Caitlin Chukagian, who's been getting her ass kicked lately. Thug Rose Namajunas she lost to her. And then Zhang is actually up and coming, but she was pretty decent before that in the spread. Like I said, Andrade -260, -270 makes me lean Cynthia, even though I don't know a ton about her. And I didn't dig that deep into this fight, buddy. But have you looked at this one yet?
Yeah, this one's a hard pass for me. Calvillo came in with a lot of hype. They really liked her during the Ultimate Fighter, and Esparza put her wrestling on her, and she lost that one. And then not that I care, she tested positive for weed. That was back in 2017 when they still punished you for that. Since then she's 3-1-1. She lost to Chukagian last time out in November. I was at in Jacksonville for the the first full capacity post pandemic show. Did I just say post-pandemic?
We ain't post nothing right now, Brian.
You know what I meant. Anyhow, Andrade got dominated. But so Andrade has always been a strawweight, and she moved up, to flyweight to 125 and got the knockout on Chukagian, and that earned her the title shot. So this is only her third fight at flyweight, or she might have been flyweight back earlier in her career, but at least in the UFC, it's only her third one. But Calvillo, I'm pretty sure used to fight a strawweight as well. So this is a hard pass. I got nothing on this.
All right, hard pass. Moving up in weight here to 125. This one, I know you're going to have something to talk about because these fighters are pretty mainstream here. When you have Jargino Rosenstrike versus Curtis Blades, and Blades is a pretty big favorite here. Me thinking about this fight, I'm not sure if I would have made Blades this big of a favorite, but I have two ways, Brian, that I'm considering playing this. I know one way. I know one side, and I like to play big plus money on some props on both ends to see if I win, whether it be a half unit, quarter unit, 1 unit, whatever. There's always that chance that Jargino is going to get the KO. It's the way he fights, and he's got great stand-up. Some of the best stand-up is from Jargino when you're looking at these heavyweight fighters. Now, I mean, Jargino has lost to Cyril Gane, which he looked like a puppy dog, just kind of scared to move inside on Cyril, but after what Cyril's been doing.
That was the worst heavyweight fight I think I've watched in a long time.
It was horrible. It was boring.
Yeah, no, the only one that was worse was Black Beast and Ngannou.
Yeah, for Ngannou when he beat him, or when Ngannou lost.
When Lewis beat him, and they both threw like a combined 30 punches the whole fight. It was insanely ridiculous. But that Rose and I just call him Biggie Boy. And by the way, we got two great nicknames: Biggie Boy and Razor Blades.
Yeah, great nicknames actually. Razor Blades is just lost himself though to our buddy, just what you said, Lewis, and he got caught. He was winning that fight really until he went in low, and then boom, the big uppercut happened. and I played this fight the same way. I played the KO, which I think I got plus 350, plus 400 from Lewis, and I think I had Blades to win by points. Now, this is what worries me. So you can get Jargino plus 400 by KO. That'd be beautiful if you win that. No worries there. But you have to put a little bit more on Blades. Maybe if you go 1 unit, go a unit and a half, maybe a half unit to a unit, depends upon what you want to do. You have to put more on Blades to win by points because it's plus 190. It's actually plus 200 right now. My worry, Brian, is the grounded pound. Jargino, as we discussed a little bit before we got on, hasn't really fought in a lot of good wrestlers. Hasn't fought in a lot of guys with great ground game. And so he can get taken down. But at the same time, I can also see Blades a little bit timid now that he got his ass knocked out. He's kind of coming after that knockout. Maybe this is boring as hell, and then he wins by takedowns. But can he ground and pound Jargino into it? Because these refs will stop a fight before it's ready. And I hate it when they freaking do that. It's because you're getting hit by gloves in the back of your head a couple times trying to get your game. That's my worry here. But are you thinking the same as me, or where are you at on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I fear that that Blades is going to be able to get takedowns, and like we were talking about before we came on the air, we really don't know a whole lot about Rosenstrike's takedown defense. Now, I remember, Overeem's got a pretty good ground game, and Overeem that was a blowout decision win. He was about to collect until Biggie Boy knocked his ass out and turned his lip into like 18 pieces with like 4 seconds left in the 5th round. but I don't really remember if Overeem was up, but I don't think he was like getting takedowns and going on the ground. I think he was just piecing him up on the feet, if memory serves. But now I will say this about Blades. You know, he got well, it was a doctor's stoppage. It wasn't, but the first time he got a TKO loss to Ngannou, he came back the next fight and he won. He won it by second round TKO elbow finish. So I'm assuming he was doing some ground and pound. I don't remember the fight specifically though. And then
the second fight afterwards against Shamil. So he first went to decision against Justin Willis, and then Blades fought Shamil.
No, I'm talking. Remember, go down further. He lost to Ngannou twice. He lost to Ngannou.
Oh, you're talking about way back. Okay, yeah. He grounded and pounded Cody East. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
So, and then when Ngannou knocked him out again, then he beat Justin Willis. So he has bounced back from KO losses before. I think you probably just put a baby play on Biggie Boy if you really want to have action on this fight, because he can certainly win this fight by KO. Blades' stand-up is not good at all, but his wrestling's big time. So, but again, it's kind of like I was saying with Marias and whatever the hell his last name is. You just hate betting on a dog and then watching him getting taken down and boring ass fight for 15 minutes. So I don't really like any of these fights we've talked about so far.
Brian's usually got a lot of them.
I'm saying I'm going to watch them. I'm just saying I fear the wrestlers and the takedowns.
Well, that's good though, Brian, because we need discussion on this stuff, because my official plays come out in my article at the Odds Breakers, usually on the fights, especially an event like this, will be out on Saturday morning, and I'll make my decision, right? You at Major Wager will be making your plays later. Probably it sounds like a little bit more undercard, if anything, for you, kind of what it's sounding, unless you get some sort of enlightenment before that happens. So, I mean, that's how it should be. It's great talking to you about this stuff, because you and me have been betting the UFC a very long time, and you understand a lot of these fighters. There's still fighters that I don't remember or haven't seen before, and that's what's cool about this.
Oh, sure. Rosters deep. That was what's so great about the pandemic is there wasn't. Let me restate that. Sports-wise, the good thing about the pandemic was that we've gotten to really watch some UFC and watch every single fight. Because you can't watch every single fight in the fall during football games. Come on. Now I'll watch the main card, but actually there are some good prelims on this card. But I mean that's going to be during the Gator game. So, but I got more familiar with fighters during the pandemic because it was the only thing going.
Me too.
Free agencies in the draft, NFL free agency in the draft. Yeah.
Yeah. It just, enhanced my love for the sport, really. So let's move up to the next one. And dude, Nick Diaz fighting Robbie Lawler. When I saw Nick Diaz on this card, I'm like, that name sounds familiar. When the hell did he fight last, Brian?
I believe it was January of 2015. He's been out 6.5 years. And, just typical Nick. They switched this fight from welterweight to middleweight last night or early this morning. On Nick's request. Yeah, and not only did they do that, just like for Nate's fight against Leon Edwards, this is a 5-round fight, even though it's not for a title. And for those not familiar, these guys fought 17 years ago at UFC 47, and Diaz won by a second-round knockout, and it was an epic fight. Joe Rogan likes to talk about how when Diaz walked into the octagon, he started going, Stockton, M.F.er. Stockton, M.F.er. It just started shooting birds at Lawler, going, Stockton, M.F.er. And when Lawler was young, he was a wild man. And Nick got under his skin big time. and he ended up knocking out Lawler. And if you want to go watch the Countdown show, I don't know if I DVR'd it the other night. I've already watched it, but it's pretty good stuff. And like, Nick is he's an interesting cat. He's always like suffered from social anxiety and been like, hates the microphone, hates talking. I mean, it's been so long. I mean, he looked comfortable in front of the microphone. He sounded more mature. He's said, I'm going to be more sportsmanlike this next go round and whatnot. And so anyway, I mean, like, look, Robbie is a guy to fade these days. He's lost 4 in a row, I believe. I'm not on his page right now.
Yeah, 4 and 5 out of the last 6 as well.
Yeah. Now, I thought the loss against Askren was kind of BS. And actually, I thought he lost to Cerrone, too. In fact, I had a big bet on Robbie that night, and I felt bad about winning that money because I love both of them. I mean, I love Cerrone. And
he beat Cerrone. Yeah, he beat Cerrone.
I thought Cerrone won that fight, though. But, Robbie is, past his prime. And look, Nick just turned 38, but Nick hasn't been taking the head trauma Robbie has. Robbie's fight with Condon at 195, that was January of 16. I mean, that was one of the greatest fights in UFC history. His fight with Rory McDonald is probably the bloodiest and most gory fight in UFC history. And then before that, he went 25 minutes with Johnny Hendricks pre-USADA when Hendricks was all on the juice, and Robbie probably was too, and when Matt Brown was in his prime. So, I mean, Robbie has had so many wars that, and I love Lawler. He's one of my top 10 favorite fighters ever, but he's definitely a fade fighter these days. But by the same token, Nick's been out for 6.5 flipping years.
I know.
So
I mean, then I would want to bet Nick if it wasn't 6.5 fucking years,
right? So I mean, I would think that both of these guys should be guys we're looking to fade, but they're fighting each other. And because I just love the Diaz brothers, I'm not advising it to your listeners. I will probably have a little bit on Nick.
All right, just a little fun play, Nick.
Just a little fun shits and giggles play.
The Diaz brothers, and it's not like these guys are young. Lawler's 39 years old, been around, like you said, forever. I had to go way back to look at that last fight, and 38 years old for Nick Diaz. Well, the next fight, buddy, there's nothing I can do with it. Valentina Shevchenko is the best technical fighter I've probably ever seen. I think, next to Nunez is the best fighter, but like just straight technical fighter. I like Valentina. I just think she's not as strong and as big as Nunez, and that's why she lost. And there was one fight that was damn close when she fought Nunez. But Lauren Murphy is just a gap filler. Lauren Murphy, in my opinion, has absolutely no chance against Shevchenko. The spread tells you that. I'm not laying minus $1,500 to win $100. I'm not doing that, buddy. And I can't use her in the parlay because it's not even moving the needle. I mean, what if
move it like 75 cents
out of $100? Yeah,
maybe 75 cents. I mean, like $3.
Dude, horrible. And I just can't do nothing with it. Unless you have something to say, we'll move to the main event here.
Oh, no, I got something to say. Shevchenko by knockout is only minus 120. Now, you obviously got to hope that she's not going to get a submission, but Murphy's not lasting 5 rounds with Valentina. I mean, maybe you could do just do a lot on Shevchenko minus 120 to win by KO. And then just a little baby play for her to win by submission because you can get it at like plus 475. But when I was in Jacksonville for when she beat Andrade, I had a huge bet on Shevchenko to win by knockout, and I won. So she is bettable. You just got to do the prop to win by KO, and I can't see Murphy lasting 5 rounds with the bullet. And now Valentina does submit people. In fact, let me get that stat.
7, 7, and 7. She's got 7 KOs, 7 submissions.
Right down the damn middle, huh?
Exactly, buddy.
Well, like she, her fight before Andrade, went to decision, and she was getting some criticism about it. Jennifer Maya. But the one before that, she KO'd again. And I think she took offense to the criticism she was getting going decision with Maya, and she came out and she just put it on Andrade's ass. She kind of went John Jones. Like, Jones, everybody said that, the way that Glover could beat him is with his dirty boxing and, get closing the distance and getting in the pocket. So Jones decided, I'm going to dirty box Glover all night and beat,
Yeah.
And so Valentina, they were saying Andrade was stronger and could, bully her in the grappling. And that's what Valentina went. She went out and just grappled.
I remember.
Dude. And so I think Valentina by KO is the way to go.
All right. Well, great point. 5-round fight. So I probably should have looked into it a little deeper. I'm still not done with the card. Great call there on the KO. And yeah, you're right. Why not just put a quarter unit on the submission there? I would be shocked if this goes 5 rounds, actually, now that you think of it. Good stuff there. Let's move on to the main event then, buddy. Before we run out of time, Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega. And I think that you might like him because his name's Brian. I don't know.
His mom spelled it the right way. I don't like Brian's little Bry.
I know that.
There's a major Bry rivalry with the I's and Y's. Brian T. City Ortega. He's only lost once, and that was to Holloway. And I think we discussed this before we went on the air. That was December 8th of 18, and then he was off nearly 2 years, which he needed to be. He took more significant strikes than that record may have been broken in the last 3 years, but he took more, or not even 3 years, but he took more significant strikes than anybody in UFC history in that fight with Holloway. So he needed some time off, but he obviously worked. And him and his coach parted ways. He's got a new coach, but he's been with the new coach for a while, like more than a year of training with him. Because the fight with Korean Zombie was supposed to happen a time or two, and it got pushed back. I forget why. One of them had injury or something. But, for him to beat Korean Zombie, I would have never been surprised that he won by submission. But for him to, for 5 rounds, just stand and bang and outclass Korean Zombie in striking, other than Aldo doing that to Zombie before he did his military thing, I don't know that I've ever seen Korean Zombie outstruck. Yair Rodriguez got the most miracle win ever at the buzzer with that reverse spinning elbow like I've never seen at the buzzer to beat Zombie. But, Ortega's clearly become an elite striker now. He's got huge reach and height advantages over Volkanovski. And I love T-City Ortega in this fight.
Yeah, and we discussed, I'm on the opposite side here, and there's some I've seen Volkanovski fight plenty of times. Ortega, I've seen him fight. I was actually on Holloway when they won, but I was also slightly as a personal play on Korean Zombie and lost that one. I think you made some great points that Ortega has a new coach now and definitely freshly motivated. Now, you said the reach advantage and the height advantage here definitely goes to Ortega. At least the height one does. The reach looks pretty close.
I just assumed he had a big reach advantage.
Yeah. Well, but Volkanovski's been there and done that his whole career. He's stocky. He's hard. He's just like a walking brick. Hard to chop down. Tough dude. Really good chin on Volkanovski. Now, the way Volkanovski likes to win is he really outscores his opponents through his kicks. He kicks extremely well. As a matter of fact, I think out of all the champions right now, he has the best leg kicks out of any of them. I really believe that. And I think that's the way he's going to chop down Ortega. I want Ortega to win because I don't like Volkanovski, the way he acts like an ass. He's cocky, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to put my money where the champion is right here. And I think in order for them to switch this belt, it would take a KO, and Volkanovski is not getting KO'd here. And that's the problem with champions. It's like the officiating. If you don't beat them, they don't want to give it to them in a decision. And I've noticed that over the years.
Well, let me tell you, like Ortega's striking has gotten so much better, but this guy's base is jiu-jitsu. This guy is one of the best jiu-jitsu guys on the entire roster. And if you saw his submission of Cub Swanson, you know what I'm talking about. And look, another thing about Volkanovski, or at least, he did not win that fight with Holloway, the last one. I thought I had Holloway winning that 4-1.
Bro, me and you were bitching about that on Twitter. That was in 2020. I remember because I think I was on Holloway that fight as well.
Oh, I was on Holloway huge and got robbed.
It was a split decision, but Holloway is just a fantastic fighter, and Holloway kept his distance. He did things right. I thought the first fight, though, Volkanovski did beat.
Oh, no, I didn't think. No, I thought Volkanovski won the first one.
Yeah. The second one, he took him a little lightly, but at the same time, Holloway beat Ortega, and now Ortega's, stepping up. And I know we don't like the A to B to C, but my handicap here is the leg kicks and the stockiness and the points. So I hope that Brian Ortega got a lot better, because if you just look at the significant strikes landed per minute, it's 6 for Volkanovski, 4.29 for Ortega, accuracy 58% for Volkanovski, 39% for Ortega, and takedowns 2.09 per 15 to 0.8 for Ortega. So the points game is what Volkanovski is really good at. That's my worry for Ortega. And Volkanovski's smart enough to not engage if he's winning this fight halfway through the 4th round. He'll stay away from Ortega. So that's, I guess, we disagreed a little bit, but it's going to be a fun one, and I'll be texting you during the bout.
Yes, sir, buddy. Yes, sir.
All right, man. Well, we went way long as usual, Brian. Love all your takes. Thank you so much for coming on. Where could our viewers and our listeners find your information?
I am on Twitter at Vegas B Edwards. My content on majorwager.com and a little bit on Vegas Insider. If you ever need my picks, they're on vegasinsider.com or brianedwardssports.com. And if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, I always offer nice deals. I'll send you my picks for free for a time or two. And if they make you money, you can tip me or whatever. So, at Vegas B Edwards, majorwager.com, vegasinsider.com, and brianedwardsports.com.
All right, make sure you guys check out Brian. Brian, cannot wait for Saturday, man. Go Badgers, go Gators, everything but the main event in the UFC. Hopefully we both can
go Razorbacks, woo pig.
Woo pig, suey.